Well, hello again, Pastor Ray Barnett here with you. Glad that you could be with me here on the Oasis. And as always, I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Excuse me. Well, we're almost at the end of February, and here in upstate New York, it's been a pretty cold, matter of fact, a very cold winter. But thankfully, there hasn't been a lot of snow. So, hey, you trade one off for the other. But Monday? No, tomorrow, Tuesday. Today's Monday. We're looking to begin the first day of March, which is great. 3 weeks, it'll be springtime. Just tell you a little something here quick as I'll get into the lesson. There are many people who live upstate New York or colder places, and they can't take it, they say, and they move to a warmer climate. But for me, I've always looked at it as it really doesn't last all that long, the winter I meant. And they can be harsh and they can be severe. But I don't know. That's my view. Sort of the way you should take your view with life in general. Hey, it's very stressful lately, I'll tell you that much, right? So much going on in the world. I don't have the time to talk to you about Bible prophecy, but we're fulfilling it day by day in and around the world. But that's a different subject. I would exhort you, or at least invite you, to watch some of my sermons, which have a whole different feel to them than these broadcasts I do for you for anxiety and depression. The sermons are much more, well, not much more, a little bit more animated and a lot more teaching. And I talk a lot about those subjects of Bible prophecy and so on. So you can go over to the other YouTube channel that we have, Time for Truth Ministries. There's a bunch of sermons there if you're interested in learning more about different doctrines of the Bible. All right. Let me get on to today's subject. It's a very simple one, and I honestly was searching my mind. I just can't recall that I've covered this with you before, but I think that I have, but I don't remember. And what I want to share with you is the logic of nervous symptoms. There's an actual logic to them if you study yourself. Now, I think some of this is going to be self-evident to you, but I think it just should be brought out into the light. If you study yourself, and if you study your symptoms, whatever they may be, I always mention palpitations because I think that's the easiest one to use as a springboard to, talk about other symptoms, but there's just so many symptoms. But if you study your symptoms, especially the more common garden variety ones, you'll see there's a logic to them. For example, if you're not studying yourself, let me say it that way, you may not pick up on the fact that you're symptom-free in certain situations, certain environments, and also certain trains of thought. And you may not be picking up on the fact that you're not having any symptoms. Then we roll it the other way, and you start to observe, if you are observing yourself, that in this environment, in this situation, with this particular person, or all of the above, you're symptomatic. You've heard of white coat syndrome, which for most of my life I had, It wasn't a palpable fear of the doctor, but something was there because my blood pressure would always go up, several points over the years. Now, or in years earlier, but over the years, I'm pretty relaxed, so that's not the case anymore so much. But you get the idea. In the doctor's office, you're feeling nervous, but you're not really conscious of it. Your blood pressure is up. And you tell, in my case, I would tell the doctor, but I get readings at home. They're all normal, so they factor that in. But that's an example of the logic of nervousness or the logic of nervous symptoms. Let me give you another example. For the great majority of you, if you were called on, like right now, somebody said, hey, you got to be over here right now, and you have to give a speech for 20 minutes. And even on a subject that you're very familiar with, whatever it may be, you're going to be in a panic. And you're going to have all kinds of symptoms, the sweaty palms and the nervousness and the hands are shaking and your voice is trembling. Public speaking has always been at the top of the list of something that people really, really dread. They really fear. But public speaking is a really great example of a fear, how we deal with here in nervous symptoms. A type of fear that comes on people that is really not that rational. What do people really fear in public speaking? They're going to make an error, they're going to make a mistake, going to be embarrassed, people may laugh, talk behind their backs, well, whatever it is. I don't know precisely what troubles every person when it comes to public speaking. But anyway, it's always been near the top of the list, in some cases at the very top of the list, depending on who's describing it, as a number one fear, at least in the top 10, that people have. But it's not entirely rational, because really what harm is there other than to the interior man, the feeling of, again, embarrassment or shame or whatever. So there's some examples of the logic of nervous symptoms. Let me stick with the public speaking. So you're at home and everything's fine. You're not really observing yourself, so you don't even realize that you're not having any nervous symptoms. The phone call comes, and let's say for some reason you have to be there because your job depends on it. And so it's like, yeah, we need you down here in 15 minutes. All right, your job is close to home. You have to give a speech to a fairly large group of people. It's an absurd illustration, I understand, but it is fiction, so, work with me here. So you have to go down there, and you got to get there right away. And you walk into the auditorium, and there's a couple hundred people there. Now, the average person, and maybe that would include myself, I don't know. I'm used to speaking extempore. Even when I have Sunday mornings, for example, I have my notes in front of me, but they're not really notes. They're just little reminders. Most of them are quotes that I haven't memorized, or just to remind me and just to kind of keep me, on point. But most of my speaking, including these videos, are extempore. I'm working with the resources that I have inside me, inside my brain, through all these years. So I'm not sure that if I was called on immediately to have to go and speak in front of a group of people, it would bother me terribly. But the average person, it would. Most of you, it would. And now, there we have the logic. You'll see, if you study yourselves, that your nervous symptoms, there is a certain logic to it. They appear in a certain place or places, or something that mimics an event. I think you follow me. But they don't appear over here. Now, I have mentioned this before, so think of a fever. God forbid, you have some fever. And you decide to go over here where it's always a happy place for you, a place that's very enjoyable and you're very relaxed. Well, if you have a fever, it will be with you here and it will be with you there. But if you really take the time to examine and really think it through, you'll see that, hey, over here I'm relaxed. Which, by the way, and I'm mentioning this because many people, mentioning this to you because many people who have nervous symptoms don't recognize that they're relaxed because there's nothing eventful about them. And so therefore, they're only conscious of when they're symptomatic under any number of circumstances. And what I would like to point out to you is that if you start to study the logic behind your symptoms, you'll begin to realize that they appear in certain places. Now, I know there's going to be one or two of you or a few of you who say that, you feel like you're almost constantly in a panic, and that does exist. But that's a kind of an acute state where you're always tense, and your symptoms seem as if they go away, or never go away. But if you study yourself, you're going to observe that they actually do, at least decrease or diminish in certain circumstances. And I'm just in this broadcast, just very briefly, that's all. I'm just trying to point out that your symptoms have a certain logic. Right? So I'm not going to go very deep with this and explain all the dynamics of it, but your symptoms definitely have a certain logic to it. Your brain is telling you, in that situation, you're in danger. Now, you're not. That's important to know. That's a central theme of this broadcast. Your brain is telling you you're in danger in that event with that person under those circumstances. And then your brain is likewise saying, oh, here, for me, it's, let's say, my house right here, right? There's no one here today. There's no one home at the moment. And, there's no one calling for my attention at the moment. They have earlier, and no doubt will again later. But at the moment, I'm safe. Everything's fine. And my body is calm. Now here's the logic. Since my brain is saying, oh, this is safe, my body calms down. I'm not tense. And there's no symptoms. Now, 15, 20 minutes later, I'm in a certain circumstance that I always find uncomfortable, it makes me nervous. The logic, once again, is this, that there, in that circumstance, whatever it may be, the brain is saying, you're in danger. Think of public speaking one more time. It's a great example. People actually feel they're in danger, when obviously they're not. But that's how it's perceived by the brain. And then the brain signals to the organs, and everything is, your stomach's churning, and you have nausea. You may have, other symptoms as well. All of them going on at once is the worst scenario. But I would just want to point out one thing, is that if you think it through, you'll see there's a certain logic. And the answer, as I discuss with you much on this broadcast, is that you're not in any danger. This is a Christian broadcast, right? We're hearing about Russia and Ukraine is a terrible thing. There's wars all over the world and rumors of wars, and that's Matthew chapter 24. But when Jesus said that you're saved, the synonym for that Greek word sozo, that's the Greek word for our English word saved. As many as believed on him were saved. And we mean that for eternity. The Bible means that for eternity. Well, the logic here, again, is if you're saved, and the synonym for saved is safe, you're safe, then you can't be in danger. And to reverse it, if you're in danger, then you can't be safe. And there's where the problem is with nervous symptoms in general. If you truly believe that you're not safe, then you believe you're in danger. And the brain is registering all kinds of alarms. The symptoms appear, and, well, there you go. I just want to point out to you today, that's all, that there is a logic to it. But all you need to really remember is this. If you're safe, then you're not in any danger. And that's where faith comes in. When it comes to nervous symptoms, when it's only a nervous symptom, they torment you, they're distressing, but there's no danger to your health. So, let me pray for you today. Again, this is a little exhortation. Hope it makes sense to you. But just keep in mind that your nervous symptoms are not dangerous, no matter how tormenting they may be, and frightening. You're not in any danger. You're okay. Father, I ask you to touch my friends today and help them to realize the truth of this. As simple as it is, it's not easy to overcome, but I ask you to help them to believe it, and to believe you, and to trust that they are actually safe. And I ask that today in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, once again, I hope this little exhortation, this little tiny lesson here helped you out. I always exhort those who may have just dropped by that if you would like to be part of this group, it's a small group, and you can make a comment or you can ask for prayer or whatever. So just, hit subscribe and notification button. And then thumbs up if you don't mind, if you got something out of this. Thumbs up if you don't mind if you didn't get something out of this. And then again, of course, if you don't want to give a thumbs up, that's fine. Anyway, join us if you like. I'd like to have you. And I do pray, I really do pray in this crazy, chaotic world that you would have the peace of Christ to be with you until we meet again. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow right here on the Oasis.